complain to the police when you want someone locked up in prison. You think they've done something worthy of being locked up in prison. They're trying to get Rupert Lowe, a perfectly law-abiding, brilliant British patriot, loyal to reform, a preeminent voice in our movement, locked up. And so I was absolutely boiling over, you might recall, Kevin, when we had our chat, because you revealed all of this to me. And of course, since those false accusations were made against Rupert, it now transpires that the women they claim the women they implied he bullied in that statement actually weren't bullied by him. There's no complaint by those women against him. And as I've already mentioned, this so-called verbal threat to physically harm Zaya was made in December. And, you know, if it was so threatening and so difficult for Zaya to cope with, why did he not complain to the Metropolitan Police back in December? The whole thing was trumped up by Nigel Farage and Zaya Youssef to just get rid of and destroy Rupert. And for me, that is utterly unforgivable. You cannot row back from that position. You cannot row back from a position of making a series of false complaints, trying to destroy a good man. Unacceptable. And I had said Zaya Youssef should go. I think that night I tweeted Zaya Youssef should be sacked. And Nigel had an opportunity to distance himself from Zaya, blame Zaya, sack him, take Rupert back into the fold and do the right thing. Instead, Nigel doubled down. He wrote an article in the Sunday Telegraph, which damned Rupert again. And so I'm afraid Nigel has chosen to side with Zaya Youssef, back him up against Rupert, who is the good man in this feud. And Nigel, therefore, in my opinion, if there's to be any future for reform, Nigel Farage has to go. Nigel Farage has to resign. If there's no future for Nigel Farage, no honest future for Nigel Farage in the British political landscape. He may make it through this. He may maintain the polls. But I tell you what, Kevin, no decent politician, no decent thinking, clear thinking, pro-British a member of our movement is going to join reform for fear of that which happened to Rupert. Nigel is not going to be able to recruit the kind of people he needs to form a government. Therefore, even if reform, by some miracle, maintains its position in the polls, and Nigel found his way into government, he would not help this country. He would be damaging to this country. And so Nigel needs to go. Nigel Farage, you need to resign. You've had multiple opportunities to save this country. You've been put in a pivotal position and you've abused it. You need to go and allow Rupert to run Reform UK.
And what did you feel about, again, you lived it with me. I mean, it happened as we were both on air. You were literally waiting to come through into the studio via the magic of Zoom, of course. When this statement dropped, I have to sort of delay the show to read it. So we saw it as it unfolded. Are we talking here, Ben? I mean, I thought purely strategically, politically, to react like that, I thought was impetuous.
Nigel Farage is, without a doubt, one of the most self-serving and deceitful political figures in modern British history. A man who built his career on grandstanding and populist rhetoric, he has consistently demonstrated that his true priority is not the British people, not national sovereignty, not the economy, but rather his own ego and self-interest. Ben Habib was absolutely right in calling him a narcissist because Farage embodies every characteristic of an egotist, obsessed with personal image, always eager to grab headlines, but utterly unwilling to take responsibility when things go wrong. He had every opportunity to truly shape Britain's post-Brexit future, to stand firm and fight for the people who supported him. But instead, he chose the coward's path. He walked away, leaving the country to deal with the catastrophic consequences of his empty promises. From the very beginning, Farage sold Brexit as a miraculous liberation, convincing millions that life outside the EU would be one of prosperity, freedom, and unrestrained national greatness. He exploited public frustration, manipulating voters with slogans like "Take Back Control." Yet never once did he present a coherent, detailed plan for how Britain would actually navigate its new reality outside the European Union. And why? Because he didn't care. Brexit was never about making Britain stronger. It was about making Nigel Farage famous. He basked in the limelight of the referendum campaign, thrived on division, and played the role of the firebrand patriot, all while knowing that once the dust settled, he would not be the one left to clean up the mess. The true measure of a leader is their willingness to take responsibility when times are tough. Farage, however, did the exact opposite. He spent years championing Brexit, but as soon as the UK voted to leave the EU, he resigned as leader of UKIP, washed his hands of any responsibility, and vanished from frontline politics. When Brexit negotiations became a disaster, when businesses struggled, when economic forecasts turned bleak, when the fishing communities he claimed to fight for were left devastated, where was Farage? Nowhere to be found. He had already moved on, leveraging his notoriety to secure lucrative media deals, making money from talk shows, podcasts, and public speaking rather than engaging with the very political system he had upended. Ben Habib's condemnation of Farage is not just justified, it is long overdue. Farage has betrayed the very people he claimed to represent. He manipulated working-class voters, fed them lies about a golden future, and then abandoned them when reality hit. He had every opportunity to step up and shape Britain's trajectory after Brexit, to contribute to policies that would mitigate the economic damage, to help stabilize the nation in the aftermath of his own political crusade. But, like the self-serving fraud he is, he did none of that. He retreated into his comfortable world of media appearances, all while pretending to still be a man of the people. The most grotesque part of this entire saga is that Farage continues to act as if he is some kind of national hero. He still positions himself as a voice of reason, a political outsider fighting for Britain's interests, when in reality he is nothing more than a political grifter, a man who stirs up division for personal gain and then flees the scene when his rhetoric backfires. He thrives on outrage, on sensationalism, on keeping his name in the headlines, yet he offers nothing of substance, no real solutions, no leadership, no responsibility. History will not be kind to Nigel Farage. He will not be remembered as a great statesman, nor as a champion of the people, but as a reckless agitator who used nationalism as a tool for personal advancement. His legacy is one of division, of economic instability, of political chaos, and above all, of cowardice. Leaders stand by their people. Leaders take responsibility. Nigel Farage did neither. Instead, he proved time and time again that he is nothing more than a shallow opportunist, a disgrace to British politics, and ultimately a man who failed the very country he claimed to love.